director, Gabe, why don't you begin with the first question?
Laird, you said the process was good. I don't expect you to give us names. If you want to give us names, feel free. But what was that process as much as you can describe it?
Well, it was very smooth in that, first of all, we did have a very good pool. I'm not going to give you names, but I was even more pleasantly surprised than I anticipated about the interest in this job. You know, from high-level performing power conference coaches, I mean, it is really clear that, first of all, coaches want to coach in the SEC, right? They want to be at the highest level and compete. And they also recognize that this has such a history in basketball and there's so much support in this region for basketball and the talent in the region. So when you start putting it all together, you really could see the interest, which that's the driving thing. The process was smooth. Turnkey did a really good job. Marcy did a really good job, and we did have really good alignment with the curators and all that. And that's all really important. But it just went through it very fast, and then in the end, you know, from Sophie to myself to the curators, the president, everybody involved, it was pretty clear what the right answer was.
Laird, you mentioned the involvement of Sophie. What kind of input did she have into this hire, and how good was it to have her involved?
Yeah. So first of all, it was a real pleasure. You all know Sophie, so you've been around her. I hadn't had a chance to do that, you know, from just being here. So for me to get to know her and just give her perspective on the program, her passion for the program, and really have that player perspective was really important. And she's also a player that knows other players that have played for coaches, right? So not only having the history of this place and the knowledge involved, but the relationship she has, she was just a great advisor. And you know, knowing that she was so supportive of this hire was really important to me, and I think it speaks a lot about the future of women's basketball. Well, you know, first of all, she is a winner, right? You know, you look at her career, her resume, but she has a real passion for coaching. And sometimes when a coach takes a year, kind of steps back like that, you sort of wonder how they're going to react. So it just really reinforced to me how passionate she was about this, about the job, about being here and being back, you know, at the table, so to speak. But also just her interpersonal skills and how she relates to people. You can see just from the conversation that she had up there, she's going to fit so well here. And one of the things that sort of struck me, you know, after I introduced her to the team, she had a time. She actually, you know, I thought it would be like she'd spend 5-10 minutes with them. I left the room so they could talk without the boss looking over their shoulder. And you know, it was like an hour later she comes out, you know, from these conversations with the players. And it really stood out to me. You know, she's going to be who she is here. She's just going to be able to be who she is and do really well being who she is. And I think having that comfort and that connection and that fit is going to be really good for her and good for our basketball program.
Laird, how important is it to have a coach who is pass, especially in the SEC? She's won a lot. How important was that for her, and how much did that, I guess, stand out in the resume?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it was one of the real things that stood out was that experience, particularly like you mentioned in the SEC. Now, not only has she been a proven, you know, high-quality head coach in a lot of programs, she knows what this league is about. And she actually scouted them for the last year or two, which I think she's getting ready for her day job with the SEC Network. So just knowing that and having the history, and you know, I am telling you, you cannot find anybody to say anything bad about it. And we tried, right? You know, you call around, you do all your homework, you do due diligence, and it's remarkable how well respected she is in this league.
Laird, we saw the contract, but commitment goes beyond just what you're paying her or her staff. So what does that look like in terms of NIL commitment to the program?
Yeah, you know, as you might imagine, you know, with every conversation you have with a candidate these days, that's part of it, right? So talking to them not only about what our NIL commitment currently looks like, what the revenue share is kind of projected to be, where we see how that playing out. Again, no, I'm not going to go into all that detail here, but knowing that we have that commitment and them feeling confident they can come in here and build a roster at a high level in this league and at this time, that was really important. But it was also such a selling point to us that we've got such a good infrastructure here. I brought Brad Larondo on the trip with us as we sat down with her in person for the first time, in large part because I wanted her to see, you know, what our Ever True Tiger program, what our NIL structure looks like, and just all the depth to it that goes beyond the vast majority of places. And I know that was another selling point for her really really quick, and she knows she can get up to speed really quick. She's going to have that support. She's not going to have to manage every agent conversation. She's got people there that are going to help her with it. Just the whole thing from A to Z is such a good structure, and I think that gave her a lot of comfort as she moved forward in the process.
Laird, in a similar vein, you talked about just the receptions as you announced the hire. What have you heard from the donor base and the folks who can financially support this effort for her?
Yeah, a lot of excitement, but to the point where I've had donors, former players come up and come out of their way to thank me and thank us for making a hire of this magnitude, right? Somebody that has this type of experience, someone that is such a proven winner at this level. I mean, it just speaks volumes that we're committed, right? We really care about this program. We believe in it, and that's been really reinforcing to me and encouraging to me that people care enough to kind of go out of their way and let us know.
Conversations with Coach Harper, how do you quickly do you envision being able to turn around this program to build it into something that can compete?
Well, she's clearly a competitor, right? And I'm sure she's going to have less patience than anyone to turn a program. You know, it doesn't happen overnight, so to speak. But in this day and age, with the transfer portal, with NIL, with the SEC as it is, and this competition, people wanting to play this level, I think we can get back to better and more competitive really quickly. Now it is something that has to be done right, and we want her to know that and do it right. But I feel confident she's gonna get better in a hurry.
Laird, we've talked about her coaching experience, and you briefly touched on what she did as a student athlete. What impressed you about 3 national titles working under Pat Summitt?
Yeah. Well, it's like instant credibility. When you're a player or a recruit and you're looking at a coach, there is a difference when a coach has done it and done it not only themselves but surrounded by others, and they played for historically, which is one of the best coaches of all time. So you just know that coaches are going to see that. Obviously, that helps. It sort of immediately checks some boxes about do they have the history, the upbringing, the mentors in their life that are going to help them be successful at this stage. And so it was obviously just another one of the many positives that we were able to draw from. Thank you all.
One more on the you're talking about the NIL, and that was impressive. Where do you feel like in this program in particular you guys are in terms of the rest of the SEC on that kind of support?
First of all, I do think it's hard to fully predict that right now because we're still living in this sort of world where we don't have real transparency in reporting, which is one of the things that we're looking forward to in the House settlement and kind of moving forward. And so a couple, 3 years from now, we'll be a lot more definitive in that answer. I would say we are highly competitive. We are not going to outspend everybody, but we're also not going to be at the lower end either, right? We are going to be competitive, and we're going to provide her what she needs. And she felt like, and other candidates, as we talked to them through the process, felt like we needed to be at. And that's one of the advantages we have of this infrastructure. We have real data, information that tells us, hey, are we doing the right things? We're spending the right way, but are we spending smartly? And so I feel really good about our position. Appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you, Laird.